Welcome to the Bourbon Van. I'm Phil. It's Whiskey in the Van Wednesday, and today we are tasting Barton 1792 aged 12 years bourbon. It is freezing here in Central Oregon. It is not fair to these whiskeys to drink them in an environment that is so cold that your nose and your palate are not really working properly. So today I am drinking inside, trying 1792 aged 12 years from Barton 1792 Distilling. If you followed along with our Advent calendar whiskey tournament, then you already know my affinity for Barton 1792 Distilling. I love their typical notes of toffee, a little bit of bubblegum, butterscotch, and oak. And today I'm trying something that I've never tried from them before. It is their aged 12 years product. I have no idea what to expect. I haven't really read anything about this online. I just got the opportunity to purchase it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm excited to give it a shot. So let's pour this and see how it goes. That was a really disappointing pop. Julie gave it a thumbs down from across the room. Just like all other 1792 bottles, this bottle has their traditional gold chrome top and the funky shape. This one has the gray ring on the neck. All of them have a different color on the neck. The one thing that they all have in common though is this unique bottle shape and the style that they project. They pride themselves on being the Gatsby style bourbon company, and I guess they're pulling that off here. I think Remus does it better, but this is pretty good. So 1792, pretty much available on every shelf across the country. This one here, the aged 12 years, I don't know how readily available that one is out there. Pretty rare here, and so when I saw it, I grabbed it right away. I don't really know what to expect beyond the normal 1792 flavor profile, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with the nose here. Let's give it a shot. The nose is pretty familiar for a 1792 product. There's vanilla here, maybe a little caramel, but mostly that butterscotch note that you always get, the toffee note that you always get from 1792. The unusual thing here is that a lot of times I get a bubblegum sort of note on the nose from 1792. If anything, there's a little bit of oak here. There's maybe a touch of that bubblegum here, but everything I'm getting on the nose is very muted, very subdued, and it seems like maybe that 12 years in the barrel has muted all those notes on the nose. It's a very mild nose and there's not a ton to write home about, so I'm gonna go in for a sip. Cheers. When this first hits your tongue, it's really, really smooth. There's not a ton going on right off the bat. There's a little bit of rye spice there. This is a higher rye mash bill as I understand it. That toffee and bubblegum sweetness that I'm used to is not really showing up in this bottle. The one flavor that is sort of lingering here is the oak, which is not a huge surprise for something that's been in the barrel for 12 years, but I expected more lively flavors, but what I'm getting is something more muted, very soft, very subtle. It's just mild on the nose and mild on the palate so far. Let's have another sip of this and see if we find anything else in here. It's really strange. There's just nothing like the traditional 1792 flavor profile. I actually thought about pulling out a couple other 1792 bottles to compare this one to them. I just don't think it would be worth the comparison. There's not a ton of 1792 flavors in this bottle. So Julie heard me doing this review from the other room. Came in for a shot. What do you think?
Initial sip, initial take. Love the first sip. Caramels, butterscotch, kind of melts on the tongue. The finish, not great for me on that one.
No, it's dry.
Yeah, something, it was like really quick, like, woo, a punch, sweetness, deliciousness, melted, and then as it was melting, it was like, burp.
Yeah, it ends so quickly. Thank you, Julie. What a cameo. She's right, the flavors are muted. What's there is nice, they're muted, and then all of a sudden they're gone and replaced by bitter oak. It's not sweet oak, it's not really the most pleasant experience, quite honestly. Strange thing about this bottle is it's bottled at 96.6 proof. It's aged 12 years. Maybe if it was bottled at a higher proof, there'd be more here, or maybe they proofed it down a lot because they knew that that bitter oak on the back end would be overwhelming at a higher proof, but I'm not super thrilled with this bottle. I'm certainly not impressed by it. I'm gonna take one more sip to see if I missed anything on the palate and to examine the finish. If anything, I notice rye spice more in this bottle than any of the other 1792 bottles that I've tried. I haven't had the 1792 high rye, so maybe that's a different product altogether, but a little bit of rye spice, a little more bitter oak, and that's pretty much the end of the story here. So I've been looking forward to trying this bottle for a while. When I saw it on the shelf and had the opportunity to purchase it, I knew I had to get it right away because I really like that 1792 flavor profile. But I have to be perfectly honest, I'm disappointed in this bottle. Even though I don't want to, I suppose we have to talk value here. This is, thankfully, only a $50 bottle. 12-year-old whiskey, there's not a ton of really strong 12-year whiskeys on the market. There's certainly not a ton of readily available 12-year plus whiskeys on the market. So right off the bat, I have to say $50 for a whiskey of that age, I don't hate that. I would say that this wouldn't even really, in my mind, compete with their single barrel product at 98.6 proof. It certainly doesn't compete with their bottled and bond product at 100 proof. That bottled and bond product, the number one complaint that a lot of people have with it is that it's a little bit too oaky. The thing about the oak on the bottled and bond product is that it's sweet. It's a pleasant flavor. The oak in this bottle is not so sweet. It's not so pleasant. In my mind, the other 1792 bourbons on the shelf, the small batch, the single barrel, the bottled and bond, and even the full proof are really much, much better than this bottle right here, unless you really like bitter oak tannins and really muted flavors. So what else can you get at that $50 price point? Well, from 1792 alone, you can buy their full proof product at 125 proof at $50. In my mind, it's way better than this product. It's much more flavorful. And if you don't care for something with that sort of heat on it, a couple drops of water or an ice cube will rein that heat in and still give you a ton of flavor. 1792 bottled and bond, $40-ish for 100 proof. Way more flavor than this, tons more sweetness than this. In my mind, a much better bourbon. And that bottled and bond product from 1792 is aged about 7 years. 12 years seems to be much too much. Other brands at the $50 price point that I think are a better value, Wild Turkey Rare Breed, under 50 bucks, in my mind, much better than this. Pikesville, yeah, it's a rye, 50 bucks, way more complex than this, 110 proof, tons more flavor. Even Larceny Barrel Proof, it's a wheated bourbon, doesn't taste anything like this. The profile is nothing like this, but it's 120 something to 130 something proof, depending on the batch you get. A $50 product. 12 years is an unusually long time these days for a bourbon to stay in the barrel. You're paying for that time and the experience of trying a 12-year-old bourbon. For me, this just isn't a standout experience. So now I guess I need to ask you, have you tried this bourbon? Do you care for the 1792 profile? If so, what's your favorite 1792 bottle? Do you like this 12-year? Am I completely wrong on this? Let me know in the comments. Obviously, I'm not enjoying this bourbon all that much, but I finish what I start, so I'm gonna get back to work here. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. Ring that bell so you never miss a video from us. From wherever we are to wherever you are, cheers.